G'day there guys, sometimes you'll never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. It's your host Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's episode, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's content. Thank you. Posted by user Lady Goomba. Titled, Am I the a-hole for reporting my brother-in-law's sister to a HIPAA board for accessing my medical records? This happened a long time ago, but it has nagged at me and made me question if my actions were worth it. Many years ago, I wasn't doing very well mentally and was hospitalized. My sister and I had a rocky relationship, but we were just starting to get close again. When this hospitalization occurred, I was ashamed and did not want her to know, fearing it would destroy what took so long to repair. After I was released, my dad told me that my sister knew about it, but she did not contact me, just checked in with my dad about me. I was 100% certain that the only person who knew was my dad, and he assured me he did not tell her. It then dawned on me that my brother-in-law's sister works as a nurse where I was hospitalized, so I called the hospital. I felt embarrassed about the accusation, but they were very nice and took my concerns seriously. A couple weeks later, they followed up and verified that she did indeed access my medical records without being my nurse. They said she was scheduled to meet with a board or committee, but they could not inform me of the outcome. Since then, my sister and brother-in-law have cut off all communication. I have written letters, tried calling her, etc., but I was blocked entirely. I did not intend to hurt anyone. I was more upset that this very sensitive and private subject was violated by an employee, and I did not feel it was right of her to use her position to access my records and inform my sister. If I had wanted my sister to know, I would have told her on my own time. However, I have missed meeting the birth of both my niece and nephew and lost my sister and friends associated with her. Family is very important to me, as mine has been very broken and it's heartbreaking to not be included. Was I in the wrong? I don't think you're in the wrong for reporting her for this one. Just because, family is so important to you, you shouldn't let that family get away with abusing you and then abusing your privacy. That's an absolute no-go. I feel like what you did was justified and pretty much required in this situation. What else is she going to share about you if you let her to get away with this? How many other people's private information is going to be accessed because of her? That's too much of a security risk. You did the right thing. Edit. I'm now realizing a large group of strangers are better family than my own. I was not expecting this to be so one-sided because of the severe backlash I received from my own. I have been feeling guilt and remorse for too many years, and I feel like I can finally move on and stop beating myself up for this. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, and please continue to share your thoughts and your stories. These discussions have the potential for healing, education, and improved mental health. Absolutely not the a-hole. She broke the law, she gets to deal with the consequences. A lot of the time these aren't isolated incidents, so it's entirely possible she's done it to others as well. I understand it hurts to be shut out, but you need to release yourself from the guilt because sister-in-law, and by extension the rest of your family apparently, does not respect you. This is a huge violation. To be clear, this is not a wink and nod situation in healthcare. You are educated backwards and forwards that you absolutely will be fired if found out. Side note, with electronic medical records, it is remarkably easy to detect these types of violations. Many systems have automatic checks on suspicious access. Psychiatric records are often highly secured, i.e., you have to break the glass by re-entering your password at our institution. You can't do it unknowingly. If you do this, you absolutely know that you very well will be terminated for such an egregious violation. My job deals with HIPAA daily, and I'm not in the medical fields. I can only imagine how much training and education goes into doctors and nurses. The nurse who accessed your medical records without your permission, or being your nurse, knew what she did was wrong. She still chose to do that crime anyway. Yes, it's a crime. Not the a-hole. That's horrible, and I'm really sorry that happened to you. Them choosing to go no contact with you after you reported their wrongdoing is not your fault. HIPAA violations are a huge deal, and especially as you are someone who is struggling psychologically, that could make things much worse because it is such a violation of trust. These are things that often make people less likely to get help when they need it. Also, if she had no qualms about doing this in relation to you, she clearly doesn't care about how serious and horrible that is, and could be doing this for however many people, which could further contribute to bad things in their lives. She is responsible for the consequences of her actions. Honestly, one stranger to another, I'm proud of you. It can take so much courage to report things like this, and I think you made a good choice. You are not in the wrong at all for that. This has been burdening me for too many years, and it took me a long time to get up the nerve to talk about it openly. That said, you have no idea how much your words and insight means to me. Just to reiterate how big of a deal this is, HIPAA training must be completed within a month of being hired, and every year after that. There is no chance sister-in-law didn't know the consequences of her actions. Posted by user ThrowRA91738. Titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I won't attend Christmas if my aunt and uncle will be there, resulting in them being uninvited? When I was 17, I got pregnant, and my parents kicked me out. My aunt and uncle offered me their guest room, but after a few weeks, they sat me down and said they wanted my baby. I then got a guilt trip of pro-life propaganda, mixed with telling me I couldn't take care of a kid, and that they let me live with them for free, and basically said that I should give them my kid because of all of this. I said yes, because I was worried they'd kick me out if I said no. I sat my A-levels, and when my student loan came through, I just left and went to my chosen uni, a few hours away. I was about 7 months pregnant at the time. I tried to talk to them about it, but they wouldn't listen, so I wrote them a letter instead. By the time I arrived, I had a ton of messages from them, upset with and mad at me for how I handled things. I got a job, gave birth, and ended up delaying uni, but I ultimately got my degree and my daughter and I came out on the other side of it. I went straight from uni to a career, all based in this town a few hours from my hometown. In this time, I had in-person contact with my younger siblings who had met my daughter, but this has only been a couple of times a year, and I have fairly regular phone calls with my grandparents who have never met my daughter in person. I went back to my hometown once, 3 years ago, for my father's funeral without my daughter, and I ended up getting into drama with both my mother and my aunt and uncle, and I've not been back since, despite my siblings and grandparents encouraging me to come. My daughter is turning 7 this month. Nan said that I have to come see them this Christmas. I hesitated, and Nan asked what the issue is. I explained that I was worried I'd run into my mother, uncle, or aunt. Nan said that my mum hasn't been invited to Christmas since she was kicked out, and that if my aunt and uncle were an issue, she would uninvite them too, as she wants to see both me and my daughter at Christmas. I said if that's how she feels, then I'll do my best for us to be there. However, in the few days since that phone call with Nan, all hell has broken loose. My aunt and uncle have contacted and said that I'm being a petty, vindictive tramp for getting them uninvited from Christmas, and my cousin, their daughter, sides with them, saying I'm being a bear for being upset with them nearly 8 years later, and using my daughter's status as the only great-grandchild and the only relative my grandparents have never met as a bargaining chip to get my way. My siblings are torn between feeling that I should be allowed to state my feelings and that it was Nan's choice to uninvite them, and saying that I could have just left it alone and trusted that if there was an issue, people would intervene before it got ugly, and that I should tell Nan to re-invite them and apologize to them for getting them temporarily booted. Am I the a-hole? No, they are horrible people for what they've done to you in the past. It's obvious they deserve getting uninvited from this event. It wasn't a malicious action on your behalf. In fact, it was actually quite malicious for them to have done what they did. I'm surprised they're going as hard as they are trying to put this on you in a way and get themselves invited back again when they know that they can get into this Christmas event by apologizing and setting things straight and communicating. But instead they'd rather take the, no, screw you, I'm right, you're the problem, why are you causing all these problems that we caused? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? It sounds like Nan suggested it, not you. If you don't feel comfortable around these people, and your Nan knows that, she has every right to disinvite whoever she wants. And to add, Nan is an amazing lady. She clearly misses and loves OP, and sees how big of idiots her kids are and won't bow to them. Cheers to all the Nans that can see their own kids BS, and are the opposite from entitled and narcissist. Give her lots of love, OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Honestly, it sounds like the only reason they gave you a place to stay was so they could essentially steal your child. They were trying to make it like you owed them and your daughter was payment. Good on you though, they and anyone who agrees with them are toxic. They did basically say that was their motivation for taking me in, and heavily implied that if I aborted or adopted her out to other people, I would have to find somewhere else to live. Yeah. They're just annoyed that you didn't fall for their manipulation. Honestly, so happy for you though. You sound like you made a great life for you and your daughter in spite of them. Their prob's also upset because you made them look like fools. Posted by user, pick up, wait for it, truck. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling our new neighbor my son doesn't work for her and her daughter? This has been going on for 2 long months now. We had a new neighbor who's a single mother in her late 40s and her teenage daughter. They are both lovely, and she told me that she got divorced not too long ago. Her family lives in another town, and she's beginning her life as a single mother. My son, 16, has been helping them since day one. He has helped them move their stuff into their new house, and even unpacked boxes. She would have him go to the grocery stores with a list of things she and her daughter needs. She'd ask him to fix a door handle and take away the garbage, fix her car and move stuff to the backyard, clean the garden, and so on. She wouldn't stop asking for favors here and there. She'd knock on my door and borrows him for a few hours, then he comes back in 6 hours and still has to study and barely takes care of his own mess. He has math exams this week, and he started concentrating on it, which is difficult and takes time. Our neighbor called me to send him to her house so he could help her move furniture and carpets. She has huge carpets that are so heavy to lift. I told her that he was busy studying for his exam, but after 30 minutes. I saw her daughter at our door asking for my son to come and hang out with her. My son said it was okay since he said he would be gone for an hour. Next thing I knew, he got back at 9 p.m. That's 5 hours later, looking wet and extremely tired and worn out. He told me our neighbor had him clean up furniture and carpets, about 5 to 6 heavy carpets, and cleaned the entire living room after. I was so mad my son couldn't even finish studying. He took a bath and went to sleep instantly. I called my neighbor and raised my voice because I was really mad at her for making my son exhausted and causing him his math exam the next day. I told her that my son doesn't work for her and her daughter and to stop calling and sending her daughter to our house, and I hung up. My husband spoke with her and he was furious. He said that I have no respect for our neighbor and that I shouldn't berate her for just needing some help and that I have no right to not let her daughter into our house. My husband said I shouldn't say anything since our son is okay with it. He's not. Although he said nothing, and he's not the type that would talk about what bothers him and instead just do what others ask of him. I'm guessing we're probably not getting the full story if the husband is reacting like that. The optimist in me is saying that OP is in the right for this situation, but the pessimist in me says something else happened here, and there's a reason the husband is reacting the way he is, although I don't think OP is going to give us those details. Based on the story itself, I still have to go with not the a-hole, Though I do wonder if we had more information if this would turn into an everyone sucks here situation. Not the a-hole. He's not their slave. Who the F expects a random kid on the streets to do many hours of chores for free? Help your kid learn to say no and respect his own boundaries. And tell your husband he's a giant a-hole. He should be teaching his son how to create and maintain his boundaries instead of selling him out to the neighbors. My uncle used to do this to his kid and used to volunteer him for everything. Now he's surprised when his son's first boundary was with his father. Not the a-hole, continue sticking up for your son. Tell the husband to go help her and see how he does. Not the a-hole. Yes, this. Something tells me that if the husband is the one who has to help, he'll be changing his tune. Not the a-hole. She could be messing his future up if he can't study for his tests. Also, neighbor's daughter lied to your son. Everyone sucks here. I agree with your sum of objectives, but not with your methods. 1. Your son needs to learn to say no. It is a critical life skill. 2. You need to have this discussion with your son. He is being taken advantage of, and this is a great opportunity for him to learn to recognize that. And 3. You are trying to solve your son's problems for him at an age when he should be learning to solve them for himself. Don't yell at other people. Talk to your son about what's going on and what you're concerned about. Your neighbor is clearly exploiting your son and using her daughter to do so. It's hard for the son to learn to say no when his own father thinks it's acceptable to be a slave to these people. My thoughts exactly. His father probably drilled it into him, always help people in need regardless of whether or not it messes you up. Posted by user Throwaway000133. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not checking the house? So I, 30 female, live on a ranch with multiple horses, a few barn cats, and my service dog. Because of an accident when I was a teen, I am legally deaf and have very limited hearing normally, but do alright with a hearing aid. Unless you're shouting next to me, if I don't have my hearing aid in, I can't hear you. Because of the pandemic spikes in my country, most major metro areas went into lockdown. My brother's wife was afraid to be in the city with their new baby, 6 months female, and my brother asked me if they could stay with me in the countryside. I agreed as long as they cleaned up after themselves and respected my animal's space. Me and my sister-in-law get along okay, but we've never been close. She doesn't know much sign language, so I have to rely on lip reading when we talk. I really only use my hearing aid when I go out, but I've gotten used to not wearing it at home, which is where the problem is. My brother had to go into the city over the weekend for work, leaving me, sister-in-law, and the baby alone for the weekend. On Saturday, I get up and while making breakfast, I see that both my brother's car and sister-in-law's car are gone. I think nothing of it, and begin my morning routine. By noon, my sister-in-law's car comes back and I'm training a colt. A bit later, and the colt spooks bad and starts pulling away from me. I try to calm him, but a hand gripping my shoulder and spinning me around forces me to let him go. Sister-in-law was screaming at me. I was only getting every other word and struggling to read her lips because she was talking so fast. Apparently the night before, at some point, she had told me she was going into town to shop, but didn't want to take the baby, so she asked if I could watch her. To her, I answered and she took it as a yes, so this morning she went shopping and left the baby for 3 hours. I told her I never heard her request, and had I known, would have absolutely watched the baby. She called me a negligent monster for not checking the house and just assuming she took the baby. I told her that was unreasonable and asked why she didn't make sure I understood before she left. She called me a plethora of insults and stormed upstairs. I feel awful. The baby had cried all morning and I had no idea. It makes me sad and sick thinking about it. I tried to reconcile with sister-in-law, but she won't talk or look at me. My brother came back late Sunday and agreed with his wife that I should have checked the house before going out to take care of the animals, and that his daughter comes first. I told them their baby is their responsibility and my animals are mine, and that sister-in-law should have really made sure that I understood her request before leaving. We fought, and now things are tense. I don't feel like the a-hole because I'm opening my home to them. I'm not a babysitter, and if sister-in-law had a request, I feel she should have made it clear. But on the other hand, my poor niece was left for 3 hours, and now even my parents are calling me negligent. Am I wrong for not checking the house to see if anyone was home? I think it's an unreasonable expectation for them to expect you to constantly be checking your house just to see if anyone's home, you know? That's stupid. You can't just assume that the baby is in the house all day every day. She knows you have a condition, she knows that you cannot hear, and yet she takes it out on you regardless. If anything, she's the negligent one. She didn't do her due diligence, and I'm sure that there is, different situations where it's understandable that she didn't do it. She's got PPD, there's other things going on. But in this circumstance, it doesn't look like anything is going on. We haven't got any other information that would indicate that. It just seems like she was the negligent one that didn't double check with OP. I can't blame OP for not realizing that, because they are deaf. How are you going to blame someone that's deaf for not understanding you? Come on, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole at all. Your brother and sister-in-law should be ashamed. I don't have children, but if I did, I would never just leave in the morning before who I thought was going to watch them was up for the day, and I double-checked that they remembered and still agreed. You're even more excused because you can't hear. Why would you check your own house for a child that isn't yours? And why would your sister-in-law not get you to verbally say that you would watch her? That's insane. Honestly, I would tell them that they need to go back to their own home if they're going to treat you so unfairly when you are sheltering them out of the kindness of your own heart. I feel bad for your niece, but this was in no way on you. Okay, so you were deaf, they know this, and in no way did sister-in-law find it necessary to confirm that you heard or understood that she wanted to leave the baby. She most likely said something, if she even did, when you had your back turned or were in another room. Nothing was your fault. It's their child and their responsibility. She should have checked with you before even leaving the house that you would watch the baby. Being hard of hearing, there was no guarantee you would even hear the babe cry, and no, you did not have to check your whole damn house before you go outside. They knew your condition, they knew you had animals to take care of, they know they are completely in the wrong as parents. Worst case scenario, you explain this to CPS and police, they will agree the parents were in the wrong, they should have confirmed before leaving their child. You are not a babysitting service. You are not a bed and breakfast. You are not responsible for their family in any way. They messed up, and they owe you an apology. Honestly, send them back to the city. They are not worth the drama, not the a-hole. Posted by user badcooking86753009. Titled, Am I the a-hole for causing my boyfriend's kids to stop eating his ex-wife's cooking? So my boyfriend got divorced this past spring, and we started dating a couple months after the divorce was finalized. He has 2 kids, 11 and 8, from his previous marriage and has 50-50 split custody. Because of the pandemic, I moved in with him pretty shortly after we started dating, since he needed help with the kids at home. This has actually worked out great. The kids and I get along fantastic, they are a total delight to be around. Neither my boyfriend nor his ex-wife could cook worth a damn. We're talking spaghetti from a can and Kraft mac and cheese level cooking here. I, on the other hand, am a massive foodie and love to cook, and now do 100% of the cooking in the house. Here is the problem. Now that the kids know what real food tastes like, they are absolutely refusing to eat anything the ex-wife cooks for them. The ex demanded that I either stop cooking or send her money to pay for the takeout she's having to buy for every meal. Obviously, these are ridiculous demands, but to keep the peace, I offered to cook enough extra food for the kids to take to the ex's house to last for the week. This suggestion enraged the ex even more, who said that I'm insulting and undermining her as a parent, and that I need to stop acting like a mum to her kids. Am I the a-hole here? And P.S. I know the dating time frame looks sketchy, and people will inevitably ask, did you have an affair? The answer is no. My boyfriend and I had been friends for years, since before he first met his ex actually, but nothing romantic ever happened between us until after the divorce. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for this one. This sounds like a her problem, not a you problem, and she needs to step up to the plate, metaphorically and literally. Get your acts together, you no good for nothing, lazy ex. Cooking is not that hard. You are a mother of two, old kids. They're 11 and 8. You have had 11 and 8 years each to learn how to cook for your kids, and you still cannot do it. That is absolutely on you as a no good for nothing parent that can't cook for their kids. Just because someone can pick up the slack and properly parent your own kids doesn't mean that you get a free pass to be mad at them. OP, keep doing what you're doing. You are not undermining her as a parent. She's undermining herself as a parent. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She needs to learn how to cook something better than Kraft mac and cheese. I like boxed mac as much as the next girl, but real food is needed the majority of the time. Homemade mac and cheese isn't even that hard. Even spaghetti with a basic tomato sauce is pretty easy and would please the kids. There's a difference between knowing how to cook and being a great cook. Not everyone has to be great in the kitchen, but everyone should know how to cook basic meals for themselves. It always blows my mind that people don't know what they're doing in the kitchen because I grew up poorish and have been cooking since I was 15 to 16. Not the a-hole. She could just learn to cook. It's a basic life skill. And edits, the boyfriend should learn as well. I only said her in this situation because she's the one making a fuss. But yes, they both could have avoided this situation had they both learned to cook in the first place. I can't give a judgment because there's so much other context beyond this specific situation. You are not an a-hole for cooking good food for the people you live with. But my god, the level of bad decision-making surrounding this situation is astounding. This guy starts dating you just a few months after his divorce, immediately moves you in to take care of his kids, and now, just a few months down the line, you are so enmeshed in this situation that you're having domestic disagreements with his ex-wife, who he's been divorced from for about 5 seconds. Jeez, who could have predicted that this situation might get messy? Posted by user FunPrinciple3769. Titled, Am I the a-hole, 31 female, for only giving kids in my neighborhood special Halloween bags versus the regular candy I give everyone else? Halloween is one of my most favorite times of the year. My husband and I have 2 little ones, so we know almost all the kids in our block through the kids in school. Usually for Halloween, we get a swarm of kids who don't live in our neighborhood because I guess we're known for better treats here. Anyways, this has caused problems for us because we usually make Halloween goodies for the kids with cool things in it, usually ranging from $5 to $10. We've run into cases where we've had so many random kids in the neighborhood that by the time the kids I actually know come over, the goodies are all gone. Last year, my husband and I decided just to get a big bag of candy from Costco to give to the other kids, and just save the Halloween goodies for the kids we personally knew. Well, afterwards, my son came home from school and told me some kids from his school apparently stopped by our house, we don't know them, and were mad that they didn't get the special bags. I do feel bad, but we can't afford to give 100 kids these special bags. We usually set aside like 30 bags for all of our neighbors' kids. Am I the a-hole? I went through a little bit of a thought train on this one, and I'm saying, hey, they're not entitled to this candy. They're just kids. They're gonna forget about it one day. It's gonna be fine, it's just Halloween. But I guess in a way, your reputation in school kind of deems who is and isn't friends with you, and sometimes people will just hold on to stupid memories like this, and they'll judge you for your parents' actions, and, it will negatively affect you. I think looking from the outside in on this situation, it's an obvious not the a-hole here. You only have so much money and so much willingness to give 30 bags to kids from the neighborhood, you don't want to waste it. But if this had the domino effect of adversely affecting your son at school and causing him strife or grief in some sense, alienating him from other kids that had expectations of a special bag and didn't get it, so they're going to take it out on your son, I'd say you've done him a disservice. That is, if indeed this did happen, it may not have. You wouldn't be the a-hole either way. I think it's just one of these things that happen in life. But yeah, I'm gonna go not the a-hole for this one. Not the a-hole. It is awesome you make those special bags, and totally understandable to give them to the kids you actually know. But you're not obligated to give them to random kids. They are entitled if they think they deserve it. What the hell? Edit. But it is also normal to give out some basic candy to the others, as OP did. So I do not see the problem here. Totally this, and even if they are kids your children know, you should recognize your kids' friends, so these obviously weren't. They were probably like those school friends, like the kindergarten version of Facebook friends, lol. When I was little, my parents called them seagull friends. They are only your friend when you have something they want, and as soon as it's gone, so are they. No a-holes here. It's super cool you do that. I'd tell your kids, if they have a couple of friends that they want to get goodies, then they can wait around to give them the goodies, or go trick-or-treating with them so you know who it is. But otherwise, the kids are a little bit of jerks to get mad. I'm sure they got their fill of candy. I'd be more concerned about knowing definitively who is and isn't from the neighborhood. Maybe this is just me, but I couldn't say with confidence I would recognize all of the kids from my neighborhood, and it would kind of suck to be excluded even if you're from the neighborhood. Also, especially if it was like how trick-or-treating was when I was a kid, where you'd get little cluster groups arriving at doors at the same time, where kids would actively see some kids getting special treatment. I mean, I guess in the end, it doesn't matter either way, and it's looking a gift horse in the mouth, but... Yeah, your comment addresses my two main concerns. It sounds like OP is at least giving them to kids they specifically know, not just any kid they think is from their neighborhood. So that's fine for the most part. But if they were giving it out based on who they thought was from the neighborhood, which I'm assuming is upper middle class, at least based on what OP describes, I could so easily see things getting problematic. Judging who does and does not belong in a nice neighborhood is never going to be okay. I also think your point about the fact that most kids trick-or-treat in groups is also a big issue to me. It would be one thing if OP was sort of quietly and personally giving these to kids that she knows, but I'm just picturing a kid she knows coming to the door with 5 other friends and being the only one to get this super special bag. That would be weird and exclusionary, not gonna lie. You're the a-hole, unfortunately. I also live in a nicer neighborhood where people travel to on Halloween. You either can afford Costco candy in bulk, or you turn off your porch lights. Either is perfectly acceptable. I'm a turn off the light person because I work nights, but I wish I could put on an awesome yard show like my neighbors for any children trying to have fun. Being precious about your neighborhood on a public holiday is an a-hole move every time. Agreed. If they have a personal relationship with the neighborhood kids, they could drop the special Halloween gifts off at another point, like earlier in the day or whatever, and then during trick-or-treating, treat all the children the same. Giving some kids better candy than others is cruel because they don't understand what they did wrong, and doubly so because the answer is not live in the rich neighborhood. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the second channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.